right? So you've got this whole history of ancient Egypt, right? And for centuries, we've just nodded along. Oh yeah, the pharaohs' fourth dynasty around 2600 BC. They just whipped up these pyramids and that Sphinx. No big deal. But then you look a little closer and you start to think, wait a minute, what is the deal with this? Because there's this whole alternative theory bubbling up, suggesting that what we think we know about civilization's dawn, especially around Giza, might just be, well, way off. It's not just a tweak. It's like someone came along and said, that whole timeline, yeah, it's a bit squishy. Maybe these things are thousands of years older. And if that's true, everything we've carefully arranged in our historical filing cabinets, it all just spills out onto the floor. The core of the conundrum, the pyramids and the Sphinx. So what's the big fuss? It all starts with the traditional narrative, the one where the mighty pharaohs, specifically during Egypt's fourth dynasty, got these massive structures built around 2600 BC. Now, this theory, it's been the cornerstone of Egyptology for ages. People just accepted it. Ancient workers, simple tools, tremendous effort, voila, architectural wonders. But for some folks, it never quite sat right. They looked at the sheer scale of it all, the immense size and complex design of the Giza structures, and they scratched their heads. We're talking about moving 200-ton stone blocks, and not just moving them, but lifting them to incredible heights, and then fitting them together with extremely tight, almost seamless joints. Even today, with all our modern gadgetry and cranes, that's an incredible job, as one source puts it. How do you do that with simple tools? It's like trying to build a skyscraper with a hammer and a screwdriver. You just look at it and you think, come on, there has to be more to this story. And then there's the Sphinx. Ah, the Sphinx, the silent guardian, staring out across the desert. Conventionally, it's associated with Pharaoh Khafre around 2500 BCE. But this is where the real geological detective work begins to unravel things. Who stirred the pot? The water erosion whodunit. The main proponents who really pushed this alternative view into the spotlight are geologist John Anthony West and professor of natural sciences Robert M. Schoch. They looked at the Sphinx not just as an archaeological artifact, but as a geological one, and what they saw didn't make sense if it was built in 2500 BCE. They concluded quite emphatically that the erosion patterns on the Great Sphinx and the walls enclosing it were not in fact the result of wind erosion. Wind erosion tends to undercut from the base, right, like sandblasting. But what West and Schoch observed was water erosion. And not just any water erosion, but patterns consistent with prolonged heavy rainfall runoff, showing deep, undulating, vertical weathering profiles on the Sphinx enclosure walls. Now, this is where it gets really interesting, because by the time of the pharaohs, specifically Khafre's reign around 2500 BCE, Egypt's climate had already become arid. Rain, the kind that could cause this much erosion, would have ceased thousands of years prior. Paleoclimate data actually confirms that the Sahara began its shift to aridity around 5300 BCE, with significant rainfall ending in Egypt by about 3000 BCE. So if the Sphinx's erosion matches this wet period, it pretty much contradicts the idea of it being attributed to Khafre's era. It's like finding a raincoat in a desert and being told it was left there yesterday. It just doesn't add up. Schoch specifically pointed out that if the erosion was due to Nile floods, it would have undercut the monument from its base. But no, the heaviest erosion is at the top. This strongly suggests rainfall from above, not floodwater from below. And let's not forget the drain. There's a drain, a clear drainage channel, in one of the temples near the Sphinx, the Granite Temple. Think about it. A drain. In a hot, dry climate where the pharaohs supposedly built it, why would they need a drain if there was no rain to drain? This little architectural detail strongly supports the idea of an earlier construction date when rainwater drainage was actually necessary. It's like building a fireplace in Miami. Something's off. Furthermore, they argue that the type of limestone used in the Sphinx would have degraded rapidly if it wasn't for this earlier wet period. It might have vanished 500 years ago if that were the case. So it's not just a few fringe scholars. Many professional geologists have apparently supported West and Schoch's version. Other construction anomalies also raise eyebrows. Inscriptions like one from Amenhotep II describe the Sphinx as being older than the pyramids, which is a pretty big hint at pre-dynastic origins. And the Sphinx temple itself seems to contain construction debris from its enclosure, which suggests Khafre's builders might have been repurposing an already existing site, not building it from scratch. It's like finding old foundation stones under your new house, making you wonder if someone else was there first. The ramifications. A whole new ballgame. If this alternative theory, especially the water erosion hypothesis, turns out to be valid, it's not just a minor historical footnote. It's a paradigm shift. It would fundamentally reshape our understanding of ancient Egyptian civilization in multiple profound ways. Chronological revision. Back to the drawing board with the dates. Redating the Sphinx. This is the big one. If the geological evidence holds, the Sphinx isn't from Khafre's time. It would be dated to at least 5000 BCE, possibly even earlier, coinciding with Neolithic settlements rather than the well-documented Pharaonic era. Some theories even push it back to 12,000 BCE, rivaling sites like Göbekli Tepe in Turkey. This isn't just a few centuries, it's millennia older. Pyramid origins. And it's not just the Sphinx. The theory suggests that the Great Pyramid and other Giza structures might also predate the pharaohs. Discoveries of hidden chambers and shafts beneath the Giza plateau hint at possible pre-dynastic construction phases, potentially linking to a hypothesized prior world. It makes you wonder, who built those? If not the pharaohs, then who? Technological reevaluation. Where did they get those toys? Advanced engineering? This is where things get really fascinating. If these structures are thousands of years older, it implies that incredibly sophisticated stoneworking technology existed far earlier than we thought. We're talking about the precision required for those 200-ton blocks with seamless joints. This goes beyond simple copper tools and suggests abrasive techniques or even lost methods that we haven't rediscovered. It's like finding a smartphone in a Roman ruin. You just know there's a piece of the puzzle missing. This would suggest an accelerated engineering prowess, where such skills weren't gradually developed during dynastic periods but were already masterful thousands of years before the Old Kingdom. Astronomical knowledge. The pyramids aren't just big piles of rock, they're incredibly precise. Their alignments with celestial bodies, like the cardinal directions matching Orion's belt, suggest advanced astronomy. If the timeline shifts, this advanced celestial understanding would have originated in a pre-Pharaonic society, influencing later dynastic practices, even something as fundamental as the 365-day calendar. It pushes the timeline for profound mathematical and astronomical knowledge way, way back. Cultural and historical implications. A lost society? Pre-Pharaonic civilization. This is the truly mind-bending part. The water erosion hypothesis, combined with other findings like salt deposits and flood erosion, suggests the existence of a pre-Egyptian society capable of monumental architecture. This isn't just a handful of skilled artisans. This implies a lost, sophisticated society. Some theories even float the idea that this society might have been destroyed by a cataclysm, perhaps an asteroid impact. Imagine that, a whole civilization capable of building wonders, just gone. Global interactions. And it gets even more intriguing. If there was a pre-Pharaonic civilization with such capabilities, it might also change our understanding of early global interactions. Artifacts like a statue of a Nubian king with Egyptian hieroglyphs are cited as potential evidence of complex cross-cultural exchanges occurring earlier than presumed. It's not just Egypt in a vacuum. It's a part of a much wider, more ancient network. Broader historical impact. Dethroning the first. If this theory were validated, it would mean we'd have to necessitate revision of timelines for monument building and climate adaptation in ancient history. It would effectively dethrone Egypt as the first civilization in terms of monumental architecture, pushing it back to a time that would truly rival Göbekli Tepe. It would also reframe cultural development. Instead of seeing dynastic Egypt as innovating independently, we'd have to consider the possibility that it inherited knowledge from an advanced predecessor. This isn't just a minor adjustment. It suggests a lineage of knowledge, a passing of the torch from a previously unknown civilization. And it would alter climate history, linking monument construction directly to North Africa's wetter phases, which has implications for how we understand human adaptation to environmental change over vast periods of time. Impact on technological achievements, beyond simple tools. A revised timeline would completely transform our view of Egyptian technological evolution. If the Giza complex dates back millennia before 2600 BCE, it's like saying the computer was invented in the Stone Age. Accelerated engineering prowess. As mentioned, the sheer scale and precision, those 200-ton blocks, the seamless joints, would mean that sophisticated stoneworking, along with the necessary astronomical and logistical skills, were mastered thousands of years before the Old Kingdom. The implication is that the techniques used were either lost or simply undocumented, challenging the long-held belief that these skills emerged gradually during dynastic periods. It's not just that they were good, they were preternaturally good. Mathematical and astronomical knowledge. The precise astronomical alignments, like those with the cardinal directions and Orion's belt, suggest a deep understanding of celestial mechanics. An earlier timeline means this knowledge didn't originate with the pharaohs, but from an even older pre-Pharaonic society, influencing everything from building orientation to the development of the 365-day calendar. This would mean that the precursors to documented Egyptian innovations were, in fact, incredibly ancient, pushing back the origins of complex scientific thought. It changes the narrative from "they figured it out" to "they inherited it." Impact on cultural legacy, a deeper well of history. An extended timeline would give Egypt an even more profound cultural legacy. It's like finding out your great-grandparents were actually famous architects from 1,000 years ago. Suddenly, your family history has a lot more depth. Deepened historical roots. Egypt's already stellar reputation as one of the world's oldest civilizations would be significantly bolstered. We'd be talking about the origins of its culture and technology stretching back to the very dawn of complex society. This would solidify Egypt's role as a foundational cradle of civilization, potentially showing it as predating and influencing other ancient cultures even more extensively than previously thought. It's not just old, it's ancient. Ancient. Revised continuity and change. We often think of Egyptian culture as remarkably stable, almost static over millennia. But an extended history would introduce new dimensions of dynamism. It would highlight even longer periods of adaptation, innovation, and resilience in the face of environmental and social change, emphasizing the adaptability and longevity of Egyptian customs, beliefs, and artistic conventions. Influence on later cultures. An older Egypt naturally means its influence on neighboring regions. The Mediterranean, Africa, the Near East was even more profound and far-reaching. It could imply that Egypt was shaping the development of writing, religion, art, and governance for a longer, earlier period than we currently appreciate. Expanded legacy of innovation. This would emphasize Egypt's pioneering role in architecture, science, and social organization. Some of humanity's earliest technological and cultural breakthroughs would firmly be attributed to an even more ancient Egypt. Modern perception and inspiration. For modern people, both within Egypt and globally, the Sphinx's mystique and Egypt's overall impact would only grow. An even more ancient and enduring civilization would offer fresh inspiration and a deeper connection to humanity's distant past. Impact on modern perceptions of Egyptian identity. More layers to unpack. If Egypt's history gains these incredibly ancient and complex layers, it would undeniably ripple through how modern Egyptians view themselves and how the world perceives their identity. It's like adding new chapters to a very, very old book. Suddenly, the character you thought you knew has a whole new backstory. Richer, more inclusive identity. For Egyptians themselves and for the world looking in, Egypt would increasingly be seen as a product of many civilizations and influences: African, Mediterranean, Arab, and beyond. This deeply layered view would underscore that national identity isn't tied to a single era, but is a unique blend shaped by all historical periods, not just the Pharaonic or Arab past. It's a tapestry woven with many different threads. Strengthened Pharaonism. An extended timeline would likely amplify Pharaonism, which is this powerful sense of pride and distinctiveness rooted in ancient Egypt. This could certainly reinforce narratives of continuity and uniqueness, fostering a deeper connection to a glorious, even more distant past. However, it could also fuel debates over who legitimately owns or can claim this ancient legacy, both within Egypt and on the international stage. It's like everyone suddenly wants to claim a piece of the family heirloom. Debates over heritage and belonging. More historical layers would inevitably intensify existing discussions about Egypt's complex African, Arab, and Mediterranean roots. The contentious public and academic debates about the racial and cultural identity of ancient Egyptians might become even more prominent, influencing how Egyptians relate to their incredibly deep past and how others seek to claim or reinterpret it. It's not just a historical question, it's a very personal one. Modern nationalism and social cohesion. A deeper past could be a powerful tool for fostering unity and national pride. But as with all powerful symbols, it could also be used to draw boundaries, especially during times of political or social uncertainty. Competing interpretations of what constitutes authentic Egyptian identity might affect citizenship narratives, minority relations, and responses to migration or regional tensions. It's a double-edged sword, this identity thing. Global perception. Internationally, Egypt's image as a true crossroads of civilizations would be even further solidified. Its heritage would become even more central to global debates about world history, race, and the complex concept of cultural ownership. The counterarguments. Why the hesitation? So if this water erosion hypothesis and the accompanying ideas are so compelling, why isn't it mainstream? Why isn't every Egyptologist throwing out their old textbooks? Well, it's not quite that simple. There are significant criticisms and counterarguments from mainstream scholars, and they raise some very valid points. It's not just a simple, oh, they just don't get it. Methodological disputes. First off, mainstream scholars argue that Schoch's erosion analysis might be overlooking other factors. They point to the potential effects of groundwater, wind erosion, even if it's not the primary cause of this specific pattern, and salt crystallization. They're saying, hey, wait a minute, it's not just rain, there are other things happening there, chemically, physically, over thousands of years. They want to look at the whole picture, not just one aspect. Archaeological context. Another major point is the archaeological context. The Sphinx enclosure, they argue, aligns perfectly with Khafre's pyramid complex. And perhaps even more tellingly, limestone from the enclosure was used in nearby temples directly associated with Khafre. This suggests a clear connection to the 4th dynasty. It's like finding a receipt for a new house in your name, but then someone else says, no, it was actually built by a lost civilization thousands of years ago. The evidence seems to point directly to the pharaohs. Absence of corroborating culture. And this is perhaps the biggest sticking point for many. If there was an advanced civilization capable of building something as monumental as the Sphinx and possibly the pyramids before 5000 BCE, then where is the evidence of that culture? Where are their cities, their pottery, their writing, their tools, their other monuments? It's not just about one impressive structure. It's about a complete lack of corroborating cultural artifacts that would point to such a sophisticated pre-dynastic society. It's like saying someone built a super advanced spaceship, but then you can't find anything other than the spaceship itself. No factory, no blueprint, no other inventions. It makes you wonder. Mainstream scholars also emphasize that findings like compensated workers, not slaves, and foreign mercenaries, tombs reveal a more complex social hierarchy than previously thought, but this doesn't necessarily contradict the traditional timeline. It simply adds nuance to it. The water erosion claims are seen by many as being rejected because of these counter-arguments. Conclusion: the unresolved debate. So where do we stand? The debate remains unresolved. It's a fascinating contention between established chronologies and these compelling empirical anomalies. Ongoing geological and archaeological investigations continue to examine these anomalies. It underscores the gaps in our traditional narratives and highlights how interdisciplinary research, pulling insights from geology, astronomy, and archaeology, continually challenges and refines our understanding of ancient history. If the water erosion theory and its implications were ever fully validated, it would be a monumental shift, forcing us to rewrite major chapters of human history. But for now, it's a tantalizing mystery, a continuous back and forth between the what if and the where's the proof. It's like trying to figure out if that weird noise you heard last night was just the pipes or something else. We keep looking, we keep digging, and who knows what we'll find, right? Thanks for watching GG Deep Dive. End of transmission.